We are not training cybersecurity professionals fast enough. Cyber Range Solutions is solving the talent gap in cybersecurity by bringing turnkey cybersecurity training programs to universities and workforce development organizations that accelerate schools' ability to deliver relevant and hands-on training for students and trainees. CRS combines best-in-class curriculum, market-leading cyber ranges, professional grant writing, and public-private partnerships to help universities develop and expand their cybersecurity training and degree programs. Visit us at cyberrangeinc.com to fill the talent gap in cybersecurity.
All right, welcome everyone. I'm Nick Andersen, Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for the Office of Cybersecurity, Energy Security, and Emergency Response, or CSER, here at the Department of Energy. We're here today to talk about the current state of ICS-specific cybersecurity training, ongoing initiatives to close the ICS skills gap, and the continued need for growth in this area as our energy systems undergo rapid digital transformation. As the energy sector continues to advance, IT and OT systems converge. ICS is in a generational flux, and the sector's historical reliance on manual control systems and the recent drive to upgrade those systems and adopt new technologies. One of the many examples of DOE's efforts to train the next generation of cyber experts is our annual CyberForce competition, which has just concluded very recently. CyberForce gives students a chance to hone their cybersecurity skills during interactive, scenario-based challenges. Through this competition, we've worked to increase hand-on education for college students and professionals, awareness of the critical infrastructure needs and the cybersecurity nexus therein, as well as a basic understanding of cybersecurity within a real-world situation. This is just one example of how DOE is addressing an emerging cybersecurity skills gap. By 2022, unfilled cybersecurity careers are expected to reach over 1.8 million. Given that our nation's critical infrastructure and in turn national security is on the line, this is a battle we cannot afford to lose. Over the next hour, you'll have the opportunity to hear from our distinguished panel of experts on all things ICS and how the private and public sector are working together to close the emerging skills gap. With that, I'd like to introduce our first panelist, Zack Tauber. Zack is the Associate Lab Director for National and Homeland Security for the Idaho National Lab. This is a major center for national security technology development and demonstration, employing 550 scientists and engineers across 300 million in programs. National and Homeland Security also supports major programs for the Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, and the intelligence community. Zack has over 30 years of experience in IT and cybersecurity management, operations, and incident response. So we're very excited to have him here today to share his knowledge with us. Zack, would you like to say a few words?
Hey, thanks, Nick. I really appreciate it. It has been a wonderful time for me here at the Idaho National Laboratory and for the work that we do across government, but particularly working with Nick and the folks in CSER at that DOE. I think CSER has really been taking the lead in developing innovative programs for internships with industry, for different types of exercises, for training and outreach to STEM, all sorts of things that we're very excited to be participating in. And I really look forward to talking with all the panelists and with Nick about this today.
Thank you so much, Zack. Next, I'd like to turn to Rob Rashotte. Rob is the Vice President of Global Training and Field Enablement at Fortinet. At Fortinet, Rob is responsible for a variety of global programs to ensure that customers, partners, and employees have the tools, education, and support that they need to be effective in their jobs. Rob has over 20 years of experience developing training and education strategies for startups and complex global organizations, as well as 15 years of experience working with some of the most innovative, fast-paced companies in the high-tech industry. As an advocate for training and education, he's played key roles in the development of some of the largest personnel certification programs in the cybersecurity field. Rob, would you like to tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Hi, Nick. It's great to be here. Very excited to represent the industry side of things here today and talk about how Fortinet really has gone from providing a vendor training and certification program to really focusing more on the skills gap overall and really becoming an advocate for partnerships between industry, governments, academia, and to really talk about how you know, we're looking at this as a corporate social responsibility initiative rather than just a training and education initiative.
Thanks so much, Rob, and we look forward to hearing from you today. And our final panelist is Kazi. Bosch is the founder of KIG, a defense and security technology investment and consulting firm based in California. They own, operate, and invest in a dynamic portfolio of cybersecurity, aerospace, defense, and training and simulation companies. With over 25 years of global experience with governments and Fortune 500 companies in the areas of engineering, security, information technology, and program management, he spent years identifying how we can address the U.S. government's changing technological needs in the defense and security sectors. Would you like to go ahead and tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Thank you. Pleasure and honor to be here. Cyber Range Solutions, one of the entities that I'm currently spending a lot of time on is focusing on is working and partnering with higher educational institutions to define a cyber curriculum that incorporates not just academic content, but a great deal of practical component, which helps build muscle memory for individuals that are going to end up working in the real world with tools and technologies that they can use to hit the ground running without having to focus and only rely on some purely academic and theoretical knowledge. We've partnered up with institutions like the University of Texas in San Antonio, Ottawa University in Arizona, and Regis University in Colorado to help define more of the certificate workforce development and employee training programs that can assimilate and incorporate a great deal of the real world challenges that corporations see nowadays. And I'm very happy with some of the recent results we've had, whereby we've assisted in identifying curriculum that is getting certified by the NSA in some of its CAEs across the U.S.
Thank you so much for that. And as you can all see, with this type of a panel and this type of wealth of experience, it should really be an engaging conversation today, and I'm looking forward to it. Zach, can we start with you maybe, and you can kind of provide us a high-level overview of the challenges that we're presented with in the ICS space today?
Yeah, sure. It's a large number of challenges. Number one, as everyone has probably heard, of whichever big number you want to pick out of unfilled jobs in the cybersecurity space. You add to that the complexities of operational technology, whether they're those for electric systems, other energy, but also automotive, aviation, water systems, et cetera. So there's a large skill gap in these other areas. And depending on which side you believe in, the convergence of IT and OT, or the fact that we still need specialized skills in either side, there is still the need to have cross training so that people can understand what both sides are doing, what the other sides are doing, and then add to that the fact that we still need to get kids interested in STEM education. So and excited about some of these jobs. And I think one of the things that we have is people don't know what a power engineer does. And if you're talking to your parents, say, gee, what should I do for a career, mom or dad? And the power engineer isn't the first thing that pops out of their minds. And I tell folks that besides outreach to kids, we need outreach to parents. And so we talk to other groups because we want to make parents excited about the types of opportunities that their kids may have also. And that's one of the first places that anyone goes to. I just wanted to comment also on one of the things that Bosch talked about. A lot of us are working together to try and find new ways to do curriculums, working with certification bodies on new certifications for industrial control or micro certs. Also trying to make sure that employers understand that they can get the skills that they need to operate, certain parts of their infrastructure from community colleges and from other areas, and we don't need that bachelor's degree right away, but it's a great pathway to get people involved early, so those are some of the things that we really need to work on. Develop those curriculum, develop the types of training that can get people into the workforce quickly. But as DOE CSER has been doing, also find ways to work with private industry, with academia, to bring middle career technicians and managers kind of back into training to help both the Department of Energy, national labs, academia understand the real world issues that are facing those operators and managers, and be able to cross train and send those back out. So there are a lot of different ways we can attack the problem. But the problem exists, and we need those trained folks because our adversaries aren't taking time off, right? They are continuing to find new ways to impact our infrastructures across America, and we need to be able to secure that to keep things going.
Absolutely agree. And Bosch, do you maybe have some thoughts on what are some of those challenges that we see between OT and ICS security training and traditional IT security training?
Yes, following on what Zach very appropriately stated, organizations and companies have cyber blind spots. There's a lack of alignment between your IT and OT infrastructure, and security protection for IT alone is not adequate for all of your industrial control systems, your SCADA operating systems. There's a lack of visibility on your total operating assets. Also, we see a lot of, there's a need for clear ownership of your OT assets inside an organization. And a lot of large companies in the energy, oil and gas sector don't have a defined role for someone that manages purely OT security. With the rise of sophisticated attacks and the fragmented, isolated systems we see in an organization's OT infrastructure, there's definitely a need for a greater focus in training and retraining personnel. And that, I think, comes from something that is being termed as experiential learning. Active learner-centric methodologies that can be deployed where the learners put their knowledge and skills to use in a more meaningful and relevant manner. For the ICS community, my request would be to not just fill open roles, but rather optimize the security functions in ways to help procure competencies. Spend more training dollars on retraining your existing talent pool in more real world and real network situations, while utilizing the existing tools that are available in your specific environments. So there are a lot of challenges, but the biggest challenge is the fact that there are so many disparate roles and methodologies being used. We need a concerted effort by the industry to recognize the need for critical infrastructure protection and for ICS and OT training.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I think it's interesting to look at how our current situation, with the pandemic, has sort of changed people's approach to professional development and training opportunities, and how that can be integrated into sort of what is our new normal. Rob, I know that Fortinet has just an absolutely extensive range of training offerings targeted to multiple audience. Can you tell us a little bit about your training strategy and who you target?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting how our strategy for training and education has evolved. You know, Fortinet, we actually celebrated our 20th anniversary this year, and we've had a training and education program almost that entire length of time. So I think in the early years, our training and education program was a pretty typical vendor program where we developed training courses to train people how to use our products. But as time has evolved and as the cybersecurity skills gap has evolved and become such a critical issue, our strategy has evolved extensively as well. And, you know, and that's driven a lot by the different initiatives and different organizations that we've gotten involved with. Probably most notable is, you know, the World Economic Forum's Global Center for Cybersecurity. We were a founding member of that. And that really changed our whole view from a vendor training program to a program focused on corporate social responsibility and really trying to have a measurable impact on the cyber the skills gap. So, you know, we've really expanded our curriculum. You know, we have a training and certification program that's multiple levels, and those levels are really aimed at quite different audiences. You know, the Global Center for Cybersecurity under WEF has an objective to, you know, build the cybersecurity workforce of the future, and that workforce, you know, it goes well beyond what a vendor would traditionally focus on as their audience. You know, we used to focus traditionally on engineers and people that are using our products and deploying our products. But to build this workforce of the future, we've realized that we also have to focus on every office worker who's out there, because as we know, cybersecurity is everyone's job, not just the engineer. So we've developed training programs that really focus on cybersecurity awareness in the workplace. And that's been received very well. And then we've also, you know, taken an approach at the opposite end of the spectrum as well, where we have to not just focus with engineering teams on how to understand and deploy our products, but how to go beyond that and how to look at designing you know, architectures that go well beyond just our products, but looking at an architecture overall and how to implement security by design, not as an afterthought. So we're really addressing that wide spectrum of audiences. But what we've also realized as a vendor company is, you know, we understand the skills gap that's out there and what it really entails to try to close that skills gap. So we've put a lot of effort behind, you know, career paths and so on, so forth. But, you know, people don't come to Fortinet to say, hey, tell me about career paths and so on. So what's really valuable to us is really fostering and getting involved in these three-way partnerships between industry, government, and academia, where, you know, we know people aren't going to look to us for those skill paths, but we can be subject matter experts in helping to define those paths. And that's something that we've really focused an awful lot of effort on is partnering with academia, various government organizations to provide that input. And the other thing that I'd say in terms of our strategy, and this is something that really happened because of the current pandemic situation. Back in March of this year, we decided that we were going to take a strategy that training and education for Fortinet, it's not a revenue stream, it's a corporate social responsibility initiative. And we decided earlier this year to make our entire training catalog available in a self-paced format, free of charge to anyone that wants to take it. And that's resulted in some pretty interesting insights that were a little bit surprising to us in the demand that was out there that certainly far exceeded our expectations. You know, at one point we were seeing registrations for our online training courses every 7 seconds coming into our platforms. So the demand really was validated from our perspective when we saw that.
Yeah, that's an amazing statistic. You know, and Zach mentioned something a little earlier about just sort of the overall pipeline and, you know, how we need to engage multiple unique segments of opportunities to be able to kind of, you know, widen the pipeline of people that can become interested in these career paths, identifying resources for them, and ultimately enabling them to develop an initial set of skills and then develop over the long term, be contributing members of this group, this control systems, OT, cyber physical systems group that we need to meet this skills shortfall. You all specifically targeted veterans as well within these training programs. Is that right? Like why veterans specifically?
Yeah, so we do, and we have a very specific program that does target veterans, and that's really part of a larger initiative to really look at leveraging underutilized talent pools that are out there. Women in tech. There's a lot of wonderful initiatives around women in tech. And veterans is one that we really did build a very specific program around it. And this really aligns very, very well with ICS and OT, because if you look at the skill set that those folks are bringing, if you look at the characteristics of military veterans, I mean, resiliency, working under extreme pressure, undefined, unexpected conditions, and just the discipline, that those characteristics are all characteristics that are critical in this field. So, so we go down that path. We develop that program because it is an incredibly valuable resource pool that we can use to help close the cybersecurity skills gap. A lot of veterans already have very in-depth technical skill sets. And again, from a corporate social responsibility perspective, it's a great thing to do. But I have to emphasize that we don't just provide them with training. We also provide veterans with career advice. We have people that connect with them, and we provide them with mentors through our channel programs. We provide them with career assistance and so on. So it's a full-blown program to get them, to help them transition from military into civilian career. And one thing that is very beneficial to us and our partners, the skills gap impacts us as a company, it impacts our channels. So this really becomes something that our channel partners love, because it's giving them access to a huge pool of resources as well. So yeah, it's been a great program. We've had quite a bit of success. It started in the US, but it's now grown to Canada and the UK as well, and we'll continue to grow it in other countries as time proceeds.
Yeah, one thing, Nick, that we have noticed also is that we also have to make sure that the hiring managers in corporations understand how to bring veterans in. Number one, that they appreciate a lot of the capabilities, that you just mentioned, but also the willingness to make that investment to bring someone in who's probably coming from a different career field, and they will really benefit the corporation in 6 months or 12 months. But everyone is so busy, and they may not want to spend the time to train that new person or get them ready. But it's like planting a crop. If you want to eat corn, it's not just going to grow up by itself. You have to plant it. You have to nurture it. These vets are a great resource. And once again, I'm not blaming managers, but they don't have the skills, the mentoring skills. We ask people to be mentors. There's very little mentor training, out there. And so how to hire a vet, might be something that we should, or how to hire a vet for OT security might be something we want to talk to the VA or the DoD about, and then bring them a program so we can have middle managers hiring managers at asset owner corporations at other places to really know how to bring folks on. Just giving the veteran career advice is only half the battle. And,
yeah,
I'm a veteran, so I want to say I was able to leave my military career, and I had some wonderful mentors and some great opportunities. And it really helps.
Yeah, I have to agree, and I think that's very similar experience to what I had as a veteran transitioning from active duty out into what really felt like a whole new world.
Yeah.
But mentorship made all the difference in being successful. I had technical skills, I had certifications and education on paper. I had an understanding of what I thought I wanted to do, which turned out to just be so wrong. I had no idea of what I really actually wanted to do.
Yeah.
But having good mentors in place to help steer and guide and to make sure that I had a more appropriate understanding of kind of what I was getting into. That made all the difference. So I agree, and I appreciate the extended popcorn supply chain analogy
Thank you.
With planting of corn. But INL has quite a bit of work that you all have done in this area as well with training. Can you talk a little bit about that as well, and about how you've kind of engaged with partners to develop some of those opportunities over the long term?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was wondering, when I was going to be able to get this in, but just in the past 2 weeks, we helped convene an ICS workforce workshop to develop a community of practice across the community. And Bosch mentioned UTSA; they're one of our partners also. But we had folks from our local universities. One of our former employees who went out and formed a company and came back in has been working on an ICS model curriculum for both 2-year and 4-year institutions. It's really much harder to get new curriculums or new courses, new changes made in our 4-year colleges because of the accreditations that have to happen and take a long time. We have a better opportunity influencing 2-year colleges and also graduate schools. So it's not that we're not focusing, on 4-year education, but we're really trying to make some of these. And so once again, if you go to the INL website, the community of practice should be up. We're having subgroup meetings. We're going to try and have, twice yearly, meetings of the entire community, and I hope to be able to grow that. But almost 20 years ago, we started with training when DHS first started standing up what is now known as the Red Blue Training, or ICS 301, where we were able to have a 5-day course, and I call it an advanced awareness course because obviously no one's going to be trained on OT security in 5 days, but it gave people a lot of appreciation for the differences between IT and OT, how adversaries might attack those systems. And then on the 4th day, that real world simulation where after you've been assigned your role early in the week and you're either a defender or an attacker, if you're a defender, you're a member of Acme Specialty Chemicals, and you want to defend it and be able to do production. And that people get to really, sit in the hot seat for 8 hours and go through there. But from that training, we've gone through doing both in-person and online training. We do a lot of training for DOE. The cyber force is something that we've been helping with, as Nick mentioned. We do some training that we call a cyber strike that was really precipitated by the attacks in Ukraine. What lessons can we learn? And DOE asked us to develop training to help operators see, number one, that adversaries really can do these things in a straightforward fashion. And number two, how can you identify the types of attacks? And number three, how can you provide training to your operators to be able to mitigate some of these? Now, the grid here in the U.S. is somewhat different than Ukraine, so that's the good news. But the training gaps still exist. Once again, DOE has led in some very innovative trainings, and we at INL and other national labs have been really fortunate to be able to participate because we see them being very impactful, and we like being able to work with industry to make this entire problem better.
Yeah, and you hit on a little bit of the virtual training that you all have been able to to engage in, and of course, this being the year of all things virtual, for better or worse. Kosh, could you touch on a little bit? You touched on some simulation elements and range-based elements earlier on. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you think some of the advantages are of those types of simulation platforms for training with control systems?
Absolutely. Thank you, Nick. Like fighter pilots, you can't train cybersecurity specialists in a classroom alone. They need to develop muscle memory, conditioned reflex actions to be able to mitigate or thwart a risk in their real life scenarios. You need to be able to build a training solution to account for the interconnected nature of an OT network and be able to cover the entire ICS cyber learning spectrum. We utilize a cyber range to essentially simulate anything that a candidate might see in their live environment, and we use specific training labs with the ability to see attack effects in real life scenarios with automated assessments. We are also able to build sensors into the network and track evidence collection. So you could take any SIM, firewall monitoring system, you can add HMI and sensors into it, simulate an actual real life scenario and inject attacks into this virtualized environment, which I consider a sandbox that doesn't threaten anything that's live, and then help build the candidates with muscle memory, or as I term it, conditioned reflex actions, to be able to mitigate or thwart a risk when they're facing it in their real life cases.
Yeah, and that's, and I think it's, again, I'm a fan of analogies, whether they're quorum-based or fighter pilot based. So I also appreciate the analogy of the fighter pilot, needing to get out of the classroom alone, and the advantages that simulation platforms can provide within this space. But of course, with the fighter pilot, they also have to get that airtime. They actually have to get their flight hours as well, whether it's in a simulator or it's actually strapping in and getting onto their platform and getting to get that real life experience. Zack, can you talk for just a little bit about some of the hands-on training opportunities that are out there, and how that helps to kind of round out students and their understanding and approach to control systems, cybersecurity elements specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to extend the metaphor, so the fighter pilot, can get all of their classroom instruction, and we have all been working on virtualizing, a lot of that over the years. But even that, I personally think, that some learners really need to be able to look the instructor in the eye and ask a personal question. But we can do a lot of that online. You can do simulator flights, etc. But then when it's time to go out and learn to fly, you need that time. But also, fighter pilots, right now, they're not being attacked, right? So, we still need, valid hands-on simulations, right? So they need to be in a plane and learn to fly, but they also need to have various types of training opportunities to teach them what happens when things go wrong. And I think that's what we're talking about now for our OT environments, right? It's easier to train people on steady state, on regular operations. But what we're talking about is when an adversary is attacking, right? So, once again, we mentioned some of the red blue. We mentioned, say, the cyber strike training that we've held with DOE Caesar. But there are also different kind of large scale exercises that are held at the, say, organization level with DOE, bringing in Department of Defense, Homeland Security, so that organizations at the both leadership but also the operational level can understand what happens in a large-scale grid attack. Who performs this first? How do we identify the adversary? How do we stop it? How do we reconstitute and mitigate? And then following on to that, there are new platforms that are coming on, once again, being sponsored by DOE, DHS, and others, to allow operators to come and kind of get into that mode of attack and response. So that way, once again, that muscle memory that Bosch talked about, because, the kind of good news is that, every now and then a squirrel jumps on an insulator, or the fiber-seeking backhoe comes and takes down some of the infrastructure. So there is some occasional, excitement in the control room, other than when the temperature is too hot or too cold and we have to balance. But they need the opportunity to go and see some negative events and be able to learn how to respond as teams, and then as organizations, and then as a country.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And we just had the opportunity to wrap up our Liberty Eclipse exercise series here within the department, which, while it's not hands-on, it still gives us an opportunity to kind of bring this larger community together to talk about the coordination elements and who would be doing what to whom. In the event that we did see large scale cyber attack on critical infrastructure, those sort of opportunities for building that muscle memory and just having the conversations so we can come up with really rigorous corrective action plans. Again, it's not the hands-on training, but it's a good complement to those types of events, and gives us that opportunity to work through some of those elements with our partners in this space. Now we can't really talk about training though without one of the largest segments of what people think about when they think about training, which is ultimately sort of certification, and with the ability to kind of point to a community of people that are credentialed and sort of have the the ability to say yes I am, and yes I do understand this, and this is how you can sort of understand the baseline level of knowledge and skills and abilities that someone may have in a space. Rob, can you maybe share a little bit with us about the certification designation that I think you all are introducing, and kind of who it's targeted towards?
Sure. Yeah. So we have what we call our network security expert certification program, and it's multiple levels of certification. There's there's 8 different levels of certification, going from basic level up to architects. And at the we call our NSE 7 level, we have various certifications that are more industry related and look at specific solution areas. So in Q2 of 2021, we'll be introducing an OT specific certification at that level. Now, as was mentioned, someone is not going to be trained in OT cybersecurity in 5 days, and that's not our intent with this certification. It's not designed to bring someone from zero to become an OT cybersecurity architect. So our target audience with this are folks who are already cybersecurity experts. They're already they're already architects, but OT might be a new area for them. So that's really our focus, is to take an existing cybersecurity architect, give them the OT context. And in a lot of cases, as we all know, we may have a cybersecurity architect who is extremely skilled and may not even know what the term SCADA means. So it's a whole new world. The lingo is completely different, and the needs are completely different. When something goes wrong, it's much more critical than a typical IT system. So that's really our focus, is to take those folks, give them that OT context. And although it is hands-on and we do have simulations, it's not simulations in terms of the attacks and the capture the flag type simulations. We're trying to certify people in a very defined skill set that is cybersecurity, OT specifically, but then these types of attack simulations, those are things that I think are critical to add to that certification, and to be something that's done on a continual basis, because as we all know, the threats are changing all the time. So I think the certification is critically important to give someone that baseline and to give them that credential. But then these simulations are, the ongoing, keeping these folks current with the latest that's happening out there in the threat landscape. Again, Q2 is our target goal to release that certification.
And Nick, if I can just jump in real quick, and I'm a member of the board of ISC², which is a certification body that's international. And it's primarily IT-based certifications, although in the last several years, their Professional Development Institute has started providing training I believe they're looking at weighing whether they can provide a certification or micro certifications in the industrial control security area. The International Society for Automation, ISA, has several certifications for very seasoned power engineers, I would say. New things like the Mission Critical Global Alliance that is from some folks who have experience there at ISA, are starting to look to industry to see how they might provide certifications. So it's a very important area. It's great to see Fortinet doing something like that as well. Because there's on one level people aren't competing. There's a need for more than one type of certification, and once again, it's a lot about educating the consumer, whether it's the technician or operator consumer, on the type of cert that would best fit them, but also the employer consumer, to let them know what these certifications are and how they fit into that operational environment, and start valuing the certs, and then people will start getting it. So it's a kind of product life cycle that we have to do all those parts. And I think that a lot of the outreach that we do, conferences like this especially, will help both sides of that equation understand the value and how to employ them.
Yeah, and it's if I can mention as well, I think it's very important, the idea that there isn't a competitive nature here. It is all everyone working together to solve this skills gap. Speaking of IC squared, it's there's benefit. Fortinet and IC squared work together, and that our certification program that I just mentioned gives people continuing education credits for their ISC squared. So there's so many linkages between the programs that are out there, and I think that just benefits the the participants greatly.
I feel bad because I'm going to shortstop Bosch one more time because you mentioned that. So last year, Idaho National Lab got a new milestone. We were actually able to grant continuing education credits too, through our certification with I guess it's ACE, and I believe we're the only national lab that with training that is eligible for CEUs in some of our different trainings. And because we have that methodology that's been certified, we're offering in some of our other areas as well. So just shameless plug.
That's all right. As long as the shameless plugs are all relevant, which all of these have been, shameless plug away. And it's one thing I do want to pull the thread on, and I know we are starting to get a little closer towards the top of our hour here. We've talked a little bit about academic institutions and the role that they play, and there's been such an evolution the last couple of years between community colleges and the role that they play, and even the emergence of the 2-year certification program for Centers of Academic Excellence for cybersecurity that we've seen with NSA and DHS, as well as the shift from it being abnormal to seeing cybersecurity focused education at 4-year and graduate levels. Now it's like everybody has that sort of a focus. The ubiquity of these programs is really starting to hit a tipping point. Bosch, I was wondering if you could share with us some of your thoughts about that role that academic institutions play in ICS training.
Well, I think academia and education is one of those sectors which has been the slowest to overhaul itself and meet the demands of the 21st century. This pandemic, I think, has forced higher educational institutions to reevaluate a lot of their business models. It's starting to get better, but we still need a lot more coordination between academia, industry, and the government to come up with a better program that fits the needs. I think colleges need to develop a specialized credentialing process that is more closely aligned with the labor market needs of the time, and this credentialing process needs to be updated incrementally to match current industry needs. we're seeing a lot of need for short-term courses and classes. In fact, during the pandemic, one of the statistics I read, that short-term credentialing courses, the need and the delivery of it increased by over 70%. And by the end of the third quarter, I think there was a total of 8 million short-term courses delivered in 2020 alone. What is needed, obviously, also is for industry to pitch in, and I'm very glad to hear what Rob was saying. You know, and as an example, like Google announced the 6-month online certificate that it would treat equivalent to a 4-year degree for all those who apply for jobs with the certification. We need something similar to that for the OT, ICS environment, backed up by a formal certification process by a higher educational institution aimed at perhaps veterans or some disadvantaged communities that want to participate and become, you know, contributing members to society. And the fact is, you know, the half-life of skills acquired at colleges is shortening because of the accelerated pace of technological change. This shift is going to lead to the generation of more education from a broader array of institutions and corporations. So, you know, companies like Fortinet are going to see the necessity and contribute towards this need. We need to get companies on board who are going to hire from this pool of a revised curriculum that is based on not a 4-year program alone, but on certification and short-term courses. Thank you.
Hey, Nick, I definitely want to weigh into that. Not alternative, you know, position. I think the Google position there is exactly what we need. I used to complain to the government or about the government, and the same thing at my national lab. While we were working with new curriculums and training at our 2-year universities, our entry-level positions required a bachelor's degree plus 3 years of experience. The federal government similarly having programs across the government with you know, community colleges, but still requiring a bachelor's degree for the entry-level jobs. And so we need to be able to make the employers aware that if you need someone with these skills, they don't need a bachelor's degree. However, that's for an entry-level job. 5 years later, when you know the managers go, boy, you know, Sally is really good, Jim's really good. Why can't they write? You know, why don't they understand these strategic business objectives? And the answer is that 4-year colleges and others teach critical thinking. They teach writing. They teach some of the skills that we need. So it's a continuum, and we can't just say that, well, we don't need this 4-year university. I think we need 4-year universities to really, you know, do what they were designed to do. And that's not teach skills that expire after, you know, several years, but to teach the skills that endure, right? You know, and I think a lot of, you know, both at undergraduate, at high school levels, where you're seeing, you know, less emphasis on humanities or on team sports or music that enhances you. We need to get back to that broad education. But yeah, to be able to get into a job, you need those skills, and maybe we can find a hybrid model.
So Zach, it's now time for me to engage in shameless plug time. You know, I think this is a conversation, you know, we've had, you know, around some training opportunities like CyberStrike, and moving from a model where we were, you know, holding CyberStrike for specific entities that just wanted technical training for their personnel, or holding it on the sidelines of, you know, a conference, and just it be whoever signed up and whoever was interested in gaining this technical skill set, and using training opportunities like that to say, okay, if we're going to bring it to maybe the Houston area, maybe we're targeting a broader oil and natural gas, you know, community subsect, but we're also bringing in people from DHS, people from the state and local community, people, you know, like maybe people from emergency and first responders within the local community, so that the soft skills and the relationships can be developed between those communities, and they have the opportunity to learn about each other's needs during a crisis event. What are some of your thoughts about the need for not just developing the technical skills, building off the lessons learned of something like Ukraine, but all of the other skills that go into coordination and relationship building, so you can be successful during a time of crisis?
Yeah, it's absolutely key, and I think that being able to know someone in a similar position, somewhere in the industry that you can pick up the phone and call. Once again, a shameless plug for you guys, the new OT Defender internships, where we're going to look to bring middle managers from asset owners from industry to come in and kind of do rotational assignments. Go spend some time at Caesars, spend some time at several of the different national labs, spend times at other asset owners, not just to build relationships, but to build understanding of the different operational environments, the challenges they face, and how they all work together, both for normal operations and potentially for emergency responses, right? So programs like that are really going to pay, big dividends here in the next, 1, 3, 5 years, as the national assets become more integrated with relationships. We see programs where the senior executives get together, the electric sector coordinating councils, et cetera. But being able to get folks at that middle manager level who will eventually be those executives and start them off early. Same thing with our operators and maintainers. Being able to go and have those trainings. That's one of the reasons why I feel that virtual training is important. But being able to go to conferences, to be able to go to big trainings, lets you make those relationships that are really, needed in a normal response.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you bringing up OT Defender, and we appreciate the support that you all are providing for the fellowship opportunity, and for for Samantha Ravitch and the support that we're seeing the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. Those are excellent opportunities, I think, to, like you said, build that community, have the conversation around the technical skill building that we can do there, but also introduce opportunities for collaboration with other government agencies and such throughout that process. So as we come up here at the top of our hour, I wanted to sort of tee it up for any last thoughts, last words that you wanted to leave the audience with. Bosch, why don't we start with you?
Very pleased to hear about all the different initiatives going on at the corporate and government levels, and highly encouraged by all the efforts that yourself, Nick, and Zach have been engaged in over the past few years. And looking forward to supporting this need of the hour. I think we need more talks such as this one, and a greater dialogue between industry, academia, and the government to actually put some of this in a more coordinated fashion out to the public, to help create some motivation with our youngsters so that they can start participating in these great programs, to bridge the existing gap of what I hear, over 500,000 unfilled positions in cybersecurity, and a lot of them focused on critical national infrastructure, OT and ICS related. Will be really great if we can start putting some thoughts to paper and getting more participation from the public out there. Thank you.
And thank you so much. Rob, why don't we turn to you now for any final comments or closing thoughts you might have?
Sure. Hopefully my internet stays okay here. I've been losing my connection. Yeah, so, again, I'd just emphasize, from Fortinet's point of view, we realize that, our value in all of this is bringing some subject matter expertise, but having to connect really with government organizations and academia to really get training out to, the large masses that we need to. The one thing that I would mention too that's been very critical for us and a little bit of a surprise is, traditionally when we work with academia, we've typically worked with engineering schools. And within the last 12 months, that's changed quite a bit, where we've now had a lot of business schools coming to us, asking us to come in and talk about cybersecurity, and we've started to do workshops around the need for cybersecurity to become a priority in the boardroom. So it was a little bit surprising to us, but we've really jumped on that and tried to leverage our partnerships with the academic partners that we have out there and start to get that message into the business schools. And it's I guess the biggest surprise has been how well that's been received, not just by the students in the current business schools, but their alumni who are coming into workshops to hear these presentations and really start to understand why this is a priority, not just for the IT teams.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for that, Rob, and thank you for all the work that you and the Fortinet team are doing in this space. All right, and Zach, we will end it with you.
Hey, appreciate that. Once again, thanks to Rob and Bosch for being here. Nick, thanks for assembling us. I just want to say that one of the big things to tell everyone is get involved in one of these programs. I think that we mentioned a lot of them. You can pretty much Google as we set them out here. And I always talk about the fact that some of the same organizations will send folks to some of the different initiatives. And we end up getting volunteer fatigue, right? Southern Company, Southern Cal Edison, they can't do everything. But I think that's also incumbent on us to change the value proposition. Not that we need the time of someone from your organization to come help with this, to, hey, if you can send someone from your organization, it's a great learning experience. They will grow. You'll be investing in your people by sending them to OT Defender or having them, help at a community college. So it's not time spent, it's time invested. And we're trying to, make more and more organizations join the team that way, realizing, yeah, this is, a free training opportunity. When I send someone to OT Defender, it's not a cost. And so please, investigate all of these different programs, invest the time of your managers and technicians to come mentor an intern, mentor a veteran, go to a cyber strike training. Those are all value added propositions. Thanks, Nick.
I absolutely agree. And thank you all for being with us today. Thank you all for sharing your insight and your expertise with us, with the audience. I'd like to thank the CyberCon team for providing this opportunity within the community for us to discuss cybersecurity specific training with industrial control systems and how all these various initiatives all fit together to help build this strong integrated community to solve what's really a global challenge, but of course is of keen interest here to how we apply that here at home and how it is a benefit to national and economic security. So again, thank you very much to the CyberCon team. Thank you to Medina, to Barry, to Mary Alice for giving us this opportunity to all chat together. Thank you all for watching and for attending this session, and I hope you have a great day.